3 months ago, my world was turned upside down when someone broke into our home through the garage and stole my wife's purse from her car. The violation of our private space left us both feeling vulnerable and angry. When I called the police right after discovering the burglary, their response was less than enthusiastic. The officer told me they would file a report but admitted that these cases rarely go anywhere due to insufficient evidence. When I expressed my frustration, the officer simply said he understood but explained they had limited resources, and these cases were difficult to solve. I wasn't going to accept that answer. I had a smartphone and credit card notifications, which gave me an idea. After the police left, I told my wife not to cancel the cards yet, suggesting we see where the thief goes. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind, asking if I was serious and worrying that the burglar could drain our accounts. I assured her we would monitor the transactions and cancel each card after he used it. But first, we needed to gather evidence. Sure enough, within an hour I got a notification that one of the cards was used at a gas station just down the street. I immediately drove there and spoke with the manager. The manager was hesitant, saying he wasn't supposed to show footage without a police warrant. I explained my situation, that someone had broken into my home that day, the police weren't doing anything, and I just needed to see who used the card at that specific time. After viewing the footage, I had a clear image of the thief and his truck. As more notifications came in, I visited each location where he used the stolen cards. Every time he made a purchase, we canceled that card, but not before I collected evidence from the store. One store employee expressed surprise that I was doing all this detective work myself. I simply replied that if I didn't do it, nobody else would. After 3 months of patience and persistence, I finally had enough information to make a formal public records request for the police report. The report revealed the burglar's name, vehicle description, and license plate number. One helpful detail stood out. An officer had noted that the suspect had previously been arrested for similar crimes. Using this information, I found an address online that might belong to the burglar. It was in a condo community, so I needed to confirm the unit number before I could send the demand letter for small claims court. I drove to the complex, planning to simply verify if his truck was there. To my surprise, not only was the vehicle parked in the lot, but the man who matched the description was sitting in it, openly drinking alcohol. I parked nearby, pretending to look at my phone while waiting for an opportunity to check the license plate, as the front plate was missing. While I was sitting there, I heard a loud crash. Looking up, I saw the burglar had attempted to drive his large truck under a parking pavilion, hitting a support pole and sideswiping another car in the process. He was now struggling to back up, making an absurd number of turns to maneuver his vehicle. A beer can lay on the ground where he had been parked. I quickly drove around to confirm the license plate, then left the community and called the non-emergency police line from a nearby parking lot. When I reached the dispatcher, I reported a drunk driver who had just hit a pole and another vehicle in a condo complex. The officer called me back for more details, and I explained the whole situation. I told him I was actually trying to find this guy's address for a small claims case because he had burglarized my home 3 months ago. The officer recognized my case, remembering I was the one who had put together all that evidence. The officer was surprisingly helpful, even providing me with the exact unit number I needed. He commented that Karma seemed to be handling this one for me and assured me he would check it out right away. I watched from outside the complex gate as the police arrived. The burglar stumbled out of his truck, was handcuffed, and assisted into the back of the patrol car. The irony wasn't lost on me. All I wanted was to confirm his address so I could pursue a civil case for the items he stole. I never expected to witness him committing another crime right in front of me. In the following weeks, I contacted the prosecutor's office to see if criminal charges would move forward, which might include restitution and save me the trouble of a civil case. I plan to mail the burglar a demand letter giving him 60 days to respond, specifically timing it for reasons of my own. If he didn't agree to a settlement, I'd take him to small claims court. In our county, filing is inexpensive and lawyers aren't permitted, just the two parties facing each other. Based on what I'd learned about this guy's history, I expected he wouldn't show up, resulting in a default judgment in my favor. It would mean more work for me to collect, possibly through wage garnishment, but there was something deeply satisfying about the thought of this entitled thief facing consequences for once. He thought he could take whatever he wanted from others without repercussions. Now, between his drunk driving arrest and my pending case, he was about to learn otherwise. It's funny how you can know someone for most of your life and still not really know them at all. My former best friend and I had been inseparable since we were 4 years old. 11 years of sleepovers, shared secrets, and countless memories. She was like a sister to me. At least that's what I thought. I didn't grow up with much. After my dad left when I was 9, my mom worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. That's why the few nice things I had meant the world to me, especially the gifts from people I cared about. My boyfriend of 3 years had saved up for months to buy me a beautiful cashmere sweater for our first Christmas together. It was cream-colored with delicate silver threading, the nicest piece of clothing I'd ever owned. I treasured it so much that I only wore it on special occasions. My boyfriend wasn't a good person, though. Behind closed doors, he had a temper that scared me. I was young and didn't know how to get out, so I stayed walking on eggshells to avoid setting him off. That sweater was one of the few kind things he'd ever done for me. When Thanksgiving break rolled around during my sophomore year, my best friend came to stay at my mom's place for the week. We had the kind of friendship where our houses were interchangeable homes. We had a great time, shared a couple wine coolers, with my mom keeping an eye on us, smoked a little weed that her mom had surprisingly provided, and just enjoyed being teenagers. She went home the week before Christmas break and everything seemed normal. But when Christmas dinner with my boyfriend's family approached, I couldn't find the sweater anywhere. I tore my room apart looking for it. The thought of telling my boyfriend that I'd lost his gift sent me into a panic attack. I knew he wouldn't react well. During my frantic search, I realized more things were missing. 2 diamond necklaces, my grandmother's 1-carat diamond ring, $240 from my savings, 2 pairs of shoes, and about 20 other clothing items. All told, it was over $1,000 worth of belongings. I texted my best friend about the missing items. I carefully described everything that was gone in great detail, suggesting that maybe I had accidentally left them at her house. She quickly texted back that she hadn't seen any of my things, but promised to look around for them. I thanked her and mentioned I was looking forward to seeing her at Christmas. I was supposed to stay at her place for a week after Christmas, and we had planned a get-together with our friends. When the time came, I packed only my phone and charger. I had a hunch about my missing items, but I hoped I was wrong. The night of our party, I excused myself, claiming I needed some alone time to take medicine for a headache. I went up to her bedroom, gently closed and locked the door, and began searching. It didn't take long to find everything that was missing hidden under her bed. I spread it all out on her bed, my grandmother's ring, the necklaces, the money, the clothes, and my precious sweater. I took photos as evidence and called my mom. When my mom answered, she asked what I wanted to do about the situation. I explained that I wanted to give my friend one last chance to be honest before pressing charges. I returned downstairs after about an hour. Everyone seemed glad I was feeling better. I pulled my friend aside for a private conversation. I gently reminded her about my missing possessions, emphasizing their significant value and mentioning the serious consequences theft of that magnitude could bring. I asked her again if she had taken my things. She just laughed it off and denied seeing any of my missing belongings. I nodded and walked away, heading straight to her mother. I asked if we could speak privately for a moment. Her mother agreed, and we stepped into the kitchen. I explained what I had found and showed her the photos of my belongings spread across her daughter's bed. Her mother looked horrified but not entirely surprised. Apparently, my friend had been caught in serious lies before, though never theft on this scale. When her mother asked what I wanted to do, I apologized but said I needed to press charges. I explained that I couldn't just ignore the situation, especially since my friend had stolen from me, and then lied directly to my face about it. Her mother understood completely, though I could see the pain in her eyes. We rejoined the party, but the air between my friend and me was now thick with tension. When the party ended, I made sure to go upstairs first. When my friend entered the bedroom, she froze at the sight of all my stolen possessions displayed on her bed. She started stammering, claiming she didn't know the items were there and attempting an apology. The look on her face, shock, embarrassment, guilt, told me everything I needed to know. I simply told her I needed to go home now. Her mother drove me home that night. The next day, I called the police and reported the theft. They found the items exactly where I'd left them, and my former best friend was arrested. Being a minor, she spent the weekend in juvenile detention, received 150 hours of community service, and was put on probation until she turned 18. Her parents also grounded her so severely that she wasn't allowed to have friends over or visit anyone else's home until she moved out. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh. 11 years of friendship gone in an instant. But then I remember how she looked me in the eye and lied, even when given the chance to come clean. I would have forgiven the theft if she'd been honest, but I couldn't forgive the betrayal of trust. I've been bouncing around the foster care system since I was 11. My mom lost custody after her third DUI, and my dad has never been in the picture. 4 years and 6 homes later, I ended up with my current foster parents about 8 months ago. At first, they seemed nice enough. Big house, decent food, and they actually bothered to ask about my day. That facade cracked pretty quickly, though. See, they have this weird obsession with controlling my stuff. They take things that belong to me, hide them, and then when I ask for them back, they swear they already returned them. Then comes the accusation, you must have destroyed it for one of your silly social media videos. Yeah, I make videos where I take apart broken electronics. It's actually educational. I show how the components work. But I only use stuff that's already broken beyond repair. Usually things I find in electronic waste bins. They know this, but it makes a convenient excuse. Things got really bad last month. I had a Google Pixel phone that was a gift from my previous foster family. I'd been having a rough day at school, failed the math test I'd studied hard for, and then got into an argument with a teacher. When I got home, I was upset and just wanted to be alone in my room. My foster mother saw me crying and immediately blamed it on my phone. She started demanding that I hand it over, claiming that it was making me depressed and antisocial. I refused to give up my phone, explaining that I had paid for the service plan myself with money from my part-time job. My foster father got angry and started lecturing me about not talking back. He said that while I was under their roof, they would decide what was best for me. I reminded them that my social worker was actually my legal guardian, not them, and they couldn't just take my property. That really set them off. They both started yelling at once about how ungrateful I was and how they could send me back anytime they wanted. Then my foster father made a phone call. I overheard my foster father telling the police that I had stolen his wife's phone and was refusing to return it. He asked for their assistance. They were calling the police and lying about my phone being theirs. When 2 officers arrived, my foster parents put on their best concerned faces. My foster mother told the officers that they were worried about my behavior lately, and especially about me taking their property. One officer asked me if I had the phone. I explained that it was my phone which I had received as a gift from my previous foster family. The officer then asked if I had proof of purchase. Of course I didn't. Who keeps receipts for gifts? The officers looked skeptical, and I could see where this was heading. Rather than risk getting arrested, I handed over my phone. I asked if I could at least take out my SIM card, explaining that it had my number and was on my plan. My foster mother immediately claimed that the SIM card also belonged to them. The officers seemed uncomfortable but weren't going to get involved in what they saw as a family dispute. They left, and I never saw that phone again. My foster parents claimed they donated it to charity. I had to start from scratch. I managed to get a temporary phone, an old Galaxy S5, and went to my cell carrier to get a replacement SIM card for the plan I was still paying for. Things were okay for a while, but then my birthday came around. My boyfriend saved up and got me an iPhone 7. When he ordered it, I explained what had happened before. I asked him to please send me screenshots of the receipt and his bank statement showing he bought it. He did, and I saved those screenshots everywhere. on my phone, in cloud storage, and even printed out copies that I keep hidden in my school locker. I also saved all my phone bills, showing my name clearly on the account. It's been a few weeks with a new phone. They've given me those looks, like they're just waiting for an excuse to pull the same trick. I know it's coming. The last time I came home late from study group, my foster father made a comment about how people who can't follow house rules don't deserve nice things. I'm ready this time. I've documented everything. I've even written down the names and badge numbers of the officers who came last time. If they try to steal my property again and call the police, I'll show the officers all my evidence and explain the pattern of behavior. My social worker barely checks in, maybe once every 2 months for about 15 minutes. I've tried bringing this up, but he always seems distracted and just tells me to try to get along with my foster parents. Still, I'm going to email him copies of all my documentation too, just in case. I'm not letting them manipulate me anymore. I've learned that in the foster system, sometimes you have to protect yourself because nobody else will. I don't want confrontation, but I'm not going to be a victim either. I'll update when something happens. But for now, I'm just keeping my head down, doing well in school, and making sure I have proof of everything I own. As a kid, I barely spoke until my teenage years, and my school reports were full of comments about how silent I was in class. It wasn't that I had nothing to say, I just liked observing and listening. That same introverted nature carried into my career as a scientist, where I thrived working behind the scenes in a prestigious research lab. Our team consisted of brilliant minds, each with their own specialties. We were making real progress in our field, and I was content with my role. That is, until one strange day when my boss, the lab director, called me into his office. He started the conversation with a serious expression, telling me he needed to discuss something important. I asked if everything was okay, showing genuine concern. That's when he dropped the bombshell. Several team members had apparently expressed that they found me contemptuous. I was completely shocked. The accusation felt like a physical blow. I sat there stunned, trying to process how anyone could see me that way when I certainly didn't feel superior to anyone. After regaining my composure, I asked him for specific examples of when I had appeared contemptuous. He refused, saying he couldn't divulge that information. I then asked if he had personally observed any such behavior from me. He admitted he hadn't. Growing frustrated, I questioned how I was supposed to change my behavior without knowing what I was doing wrong. He simply said he didn't know. In desperation, I half-jokingly suggested that perhaps I just needed to stop talking altogether. To my surprise, he seriously responded that he wasn't sure. In that moment, I knew exactly what to do. If my words were causing problems, then I would stop speaking altogether. It wouldn't be difficult. I'd had years of practice as a child. For the next few weeks, I only spoke when directly asked a question. I made sure to smile more, nod attentively, and appear agreeable. I was the model of politeness. Meanwhile, a major issue arose between two of our research teams. They had completely different approaches to a crucial experiment, and neither side would budge. The conflict escalated quickly, with secret meetings being held behind closed doors as each side tried to gain support. I knew exactly how to solve the problem. I had specialized knowledge in this particular area that could have resolved everything in minutes. But no one asked me directly, so I remained silent. The experiment proceeded with a flawed methodology. As I predicted, it failed spectacularly. No one was hurt, but the lab wasted thousands of dollars in materials and 3 weeks of valuable research time. The budget had to be revised and all conference travel was cancelled, a significant blow to researchers who needed to present their work to advance their careers. One afternoon, one of my colleagues approached me in the break room. She expressed concern about my unusual silence over the past weeks, asking if everything was okay. I explained about being told that others found me contemptuous and my decision to minimize speaking as a result. Her eyes widened and she told me she couldn't imagine anyone actually saying that about me. She then asked for my thoughts on the failed experiment. After some hesitation, I shared the simple solution I'd known all along. She immediately recognized its potential and insisted that I present my ideas at the next department meeting. At the meeting the next day, my supportive colleague made a point of asking me to share my thoughts about the experiment issues in front of everyone. All eyes turned to me as I explained my theory about the calibration process and how adjusting parameters to account for temperature variation could stabilize the results. Someone asked why I hadn't spoken up sooner. I explained that I had been told my manner of speaking made people uncomfortable, so I had been trying to be respectful by remaining silent unless directly asked. The entire table of scientists looked confused by this revelation. Another colleague asked who had told me such a thing. I explained that the director had told me some of them found me contemptuous. Everyone's attention shifted to the director, who visibly squirmed in his seat. He tried to deflect by saying, "We shouldn't discuss personnel issues in this forum." I countered that since it was my issue, I wanted clarity. I explained that if anyone actually found me contemptuous, I would continue being quiet, but if not, I would like to communicate normally again. One of the senior researchers proposed settling the matter with a vote. He asked who thought I was contemptuous, and not a single hand went up. When he asked who wanted me to speak freely and contribute to discussions, every hand in the room was raised. The experiment was immediately adjusted using my suggestion, and it succeeded brilliantly. In the following months, I secured a major grant to continue the research. The grant included funding for 2 team members to attend an international conference to present our findings. The director began coming to the lab less and less frequently after the meeting. Within 6 months, he only appeared once a week. Eventually, he took a position at another institution, and one of my supportive colleagues was promoted to director.